Today's Tanya, the 16th of is an Ageres HaKedesh Siman Hey, Daf Kuf Ches Amud Aleph. Number at the bottom of the page is 414. But to explain better, that this world is created. Olam Hazeh is created from the letter Hey, although he explained already before that the letter Hey represents the body of the letters. And this world is like the body, the physical world. But to explain it better, it is known to all those who understand that the numbers, the multitudes of worlds and chambers, that have no number, endless numbers. Hecholes means the attributes, the midas. As it says, is there a number for his hosts, and in every heichal, in every chamber, and in every gedud, there are tens, thousands of thousands, and so on. So the numbers are incredibly great. Numbers of angels, v'chein, nefesh ruach neshama yechida, and also chaya yechida. Also the levels of souls, madreges le'ein ketz. Also there are levels, endlessly, uv'chol eilam v'eicholes meribri heicholes Chabad tzilas b'yitzira, and in all of the chambers, from the many chambers that are in all the worlds, Atzilas B'ri Yitzira, Hine Kol Ribuyim Elu, so all of these multitudes, Ribui Achar Ribui, numbers after numbers, Ad Ein Ketz Mamash, until it reaches endlessness, Hakel Nimshach V'Nishpa Meribi Tzirufechav Beis Esi is Dvar Hashem. All of these creations, the angels and the Neshames, all of them come from the combinations of letters in God's speech. Which also are composed of combinations, endless combinations. Until they are literally endless. As it says in the Sefer Yetzirah that Shiva Avonim, 7 stones, meaning 7 letters, Beines, can build Chameshes Alaf in 5,040 batim. In other words, there are 5,040 combinations that you can get from 7 letters. Mikan ve'elach tzeva chashev, and from there on, in other words, what about 8 letters? How many combinations can you make of 8 letters, and how many can you make of 9, and so on? The increase is very rapid until masha'ein hapeh yochol ledaber. The numbers become so large that the mouth can't express them. Gam sheyesh b'mailus u'madreges hamalochim u'neshamis kamo v'kamo mini mailus u'madreges chalukeis. And although there exists in the various levels of souls and angels so many different degrees and so many different types, gaveya al gaveya, one higher than the other, hine hakel nimshach lefi chilufei hatzirufim v'hatmures ba'at bash. All of it comes from the variations of the combinations and the substitutions of letters in the various aleph bases that Torah has. So that sometimes an aleph is substituted with a tuf and the beis with a shin, which is one kind of substitution. And there are other forms of substitution. So in spite of their differences, the differences coming from the variations of the combinations and substitutions of the letters, as we learned earlier, that those creatures that come from the letters of the 10 utterances themselves, They are higher creatures. And those that come through substitute letters are lower creatures. Yet, all of them, generally speaking, have wisdom, angels and neshames. They have wisdom and knowledge, v'yedim as beidam. They know their Creator, mipnei hiyes chiyusam mipnimius ha'asiyes, because their life comes from the inner part of the letter, hanimshaches mebechinas chachmei lo kanal. What is the inner part of the letter? The form of the letter. And the form of the letter, we learned earlier, comes from the divine wisdom, the pre-intelligent level. So all of that is true of the higher worlds, the worlds of neshames and malachim. But this lowly world, in with the life that it contains, its energy is koten mehechel. It is too small to contain v'lizbel, and to be able to tolerate the light that comes from the form of the letters, upnimiyusan, which is the inner part of the letter, that it should be able to illuminate and nourish the world, this world, without any concealment, without any garments. This the world cannot tolerate. In the same way and to the same degree that the letters of God's words illuminate and nourish the higher worlds, the souls and the angels, so in this world it can't be rather the flow of life and energy comes into this world. It comes not from the inner part of the letter, from the form of the letters, but rather from the substance, the material, which is the body of the letters, and that's the external part of the letter. And that's the breath, not the inner, not the will of the nefesh, which is the source of the form of the letters, but rather the breath, which is the source of the body of the letters, hamischalkes l'zayin havolim, which is divided into 7 breaths, as expressed in Kaheles, sha'aleihem ha'elam emed, upon which the world stands, as is mentioned in the Zohar, k'meshikosa b'Zohar HaKodesh. V'hu meitza pi'avaya hamislabish be'elam hazeh, and that is the words that come from God, which is clothed within the world, v'chol tzevov, and all that is, and all the creatures of this world, l'hachiyesam, to give them light, to give them life, uveteiche melubeshes b'chinas tzuras esiyes hadibur v'hamachshavo mimidei savagdeishei zuretzeni v'chachmosei, and in this utterance that gives life to this world, there is the presence of the form of the letters, which is the step higher from the body of the letters, and also not only of the letters of speech, but also of thought, and eventually also the emotion, which is expressed in the thought and speech. So in these letters with which God creates this world, there is the presence of all the higher levels, the form of the letter, and all of that is still in speech. Then there is the thought that precedes speech, and then there is God's emotions, the midos, that precede thought, and then also God's will and wisdom. All of these are completely one with God, and they are present in the letters that create this world. And this is what the Arizal said, that the external part of the vessels, that is the vessel of Malchus Datzilus, which is represented by the second Hey of God's name, that's what descended and became the neshama for the world of Asiya. In other words, the lowest level of the world of Atzilus becomes the highest level for the world of Asiya. V'chein kosa b'tikunim, and we find this also in the Tikunim, Shahayud hu ba'atzilus, the Hey Tato mekan nabasiya, that the Yud is in Atzilus, and the lower Hey expresses itself in the world of Asiya, which is our world. Hayem Yem, for the 16th of Av, the Rebbe writes that the Baal Shem Tov used to travel when he first revealed himself, and the travels were for three purposes. One is to ransom the captives. The second is to strengthen Torah and Yiras Shamayim. And the third was for spreading the teachings of Hasidus. And the Middle Rebbe explained that the revealed part of Torah is called water. And everybody goes to water. The Pnimius, the inner part of Torah, is called fire. And generally people are afraid of fire. And that's why the Mashpia, the one who's going to teach Hasidus, must go to the recipient, must go to the student and say to him, you have nothing to be afraid of. Don't be afraid of the inner part of Torah, because Hashem, God, your God, is a consuming fire. Which means, don't be afraid of the fire that is Torah, it is the fire of godliness. And the fire of godliness doesn't consume, it's a fire that warms.